You're watching Fugitive Red Eye, and welcome to yet another episode of Takeshi Tuesdays. Today is another movie review, and we'll be talking about the movie Tokyo Eyes. Tokyo Eyes was originally released on September 9th, 1998 in France at the Cannes Film Festival, and then later released on October 24th in 1998 in Japan. It runs for 97 minutes and is a collaboration of Japan and France. It was directed by Jean-Pierre Limousin. It stars Shinji Takeda and Hinano Yoshikawa. So the movie itself is about this shooter named K. That's the only name given to him. He says he has a different name, but it's harder to pronounce. And we never do get his real name revealed to us. And he's also referred to as Four Eyes, because he wears glasses whenever he goes out shooting people. It's very odd, because he's shooting people with the intent to miss. His idea is to scare people. He never intends to actually kill anyone. It's very bizarre. And, like, this girl, who's the daughter of, like, the main police guy investigating him, falls in love with him. And, the two, like, have kind of this, romance as it builds up throughout it, and, they get really close. Kei borrowed his gun from the Yakuza, and, a Yakuza member comes to pick it up later on in the movie, in, like, the last 30 minutes of the movie. And that's the character who's played by Takeshi, who only actually appears in 2 scenes of the entire movie. And Kei gets shot as well, accidentally, by the gun when he gives it back to Takeshi's character, who is simply just called Yakuza in the credits. And it's left ambiguous as to whether or not he lives or dies. I was kind of confused myself when I watched it, because he got shot and then he's, like, fine the next scene, so I'm a little confused on that myself. Takeshi's character is only in 2 scenes. One to come pick up the gun in which he accidentally shoots Kei, and one where he throws the gun in cement so that it's never recovered. Tokyo Eyes was a pretty decent movie. It's by no means any of Takeshi's best work, considering he was only in, like maybe 5 minutes of the entire movie at most. That said, it was still a very interesting watch. The actual plot was a bit odd in my opinion. The character motivation I don't exactly understand. It's one of those ones where someone's trying to start some sort of ideological, message, and is just going around shooting indiscriminately with the intent to scare people, not to kill them. In fact, he wears the glasses because they actually make it so he can't see as well, because it's harder for him to pull the trigger if he can. And he's modified the gun so that it shoots off to the left. The most enjoyment I really got out of the movie was seeing, 1990s Tokyo. I really like Japanese cityscapes, so it was definitely an interesting, cinematic look at that. The characters were interesting and all, but I didn't really get, what Kei's motivations were or any of that. I think that they could have made it a lot more interesting, and the intro made me think it was going to be a different movie than it was, because at the beginning he's going around shooting, and I thought, oh, this guy's a serial killer that needs to be hunted down. That's kind of cool. That's not what it was, and Kei's played up as the good guy, despite the fact that he is going around dangerously firing a gun at people with glasses that make it so he can't see. It's definitely a very artsy film, and I did enjoy it quite a bit, and I will be watching it again. But it's definitely nowhere near on the same level as, Battle Royale or Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. It's definitely one of the lesser films I feel he appeared in. But it was still very entertaining, and I still enjoyed it for the most part. Like I said, my main draw to it was the Japanese, cityscape cinematography. That was what really made me like it, seeing, sort of the older 90s Japan is always very entertaining to me. And granted, I get plenty of that through exposure to other movies through this series, but that's really what was the draw for me on this one. The characters themselves were interesting enough, but they weren't, the greatest thing in the world. Still a decent movie, and I'd recommend it if you're a fan of Japanese cinema. If you are a fan of Takeshi, I do still recommend checking it out, but as I said, he is only in about 5 minutes of the movie. But anyway, that does it for this episode of Takeshi Tuesdays. I'll see you next week for the next one.
Shut